Most people believe that becoming wealthy requires a huge salary, a lucky investment, or some secret strategy that only the rich understand. But the truth is much simpler. There is one financial milestone that quietly changes everything about the way money works in your life. That number is $10,000. Reaching your first $10,000 is not just about the money itself. It represents something deeper. It means you have learned the discipline to save, the patience to delay gratification, and the awareness to control your spending. And once you reach this number, the game begins to change. Because before $10,000, money feels slow. After $10,000, money starts working for you. Let's understand why. First, we need to talk about the psychological barrier that most people never cross. Saving money sounds simple, but in reality, it is extremely difficult for most people. Life constantly pushes you to spend. There are bills, subscriptions, entertainment, upgrades, and endless temptations. Modern life is designed to make you spend money quickly and effortlessly. But saving money requires the opposite behavior. It requires restraint, planning, and patience. That is why most people live paycheck to paycheck. Even people who earn good salaries often find themselves with very little savings. They are not necessarily irresponsible. They are simply stuck in a system where spending is easier than saving. So when someone finally manages to save $10,000, it proves something important. It proves they can control their financial behavior. And that is the real milestone. Because wealth is not created by a single lucky event. Wealth is created by consistent habits over long periods of time. Once those habits are in place, money begins to accumulate faster. But the real magic of the $10,000 rule appears when you start investing. Let's imagine two people. The first person spends every dollar they earn. The second person saves until they reach $10,000 and then invests it. Now let's assume that investment grows at an average rate of 7% per year. 7% might not sound very exciting, but over time something powerful happens. Compound growth begins to work. At 7% growth, $10,000 becomes about $20,000 in 10 years. In 20 years, it becomes around $40,000. And in 30 years, it becomes roughly $76,000. This is without adding any additional money, just one initial investment. This is the quiet power of compounding. Money starts producing more money. And once people understand this, their perspective begins to shift. Before reaching $10,000, saving feels like sacrifice. After reaching $10,000, saving begins to feel like opportunity. People start asking different questions. Instead of asking, "What can I buy next?" they begin asking, "Where can I invest next?" This is a critical change in mindset, because wealthy people do not see money the same way others do. To most people, money is something that is spent. To investors, money is something that is deployed. It is a tool, and tools are meant to build things. Another reason the $10,000 rule is powerful is that it creates momentum. When people have zero savings, every financial problem becomes a crisis. A small emergency can wipe out their finances. A car repair, a medical bill, or an unexpected expense can push them into debt. But when someone has $10,000 saved, their entire relationship with risk changes. They are no longer financially fragile. They have breathing room. This allows them to make better decisions. For example, they may be able to invest in learning new skills. They may start a small business. They may move to a better opportunity. All of these options become possible because they have a financial cushion. In other words, $10,000 does not just change your bank account, it changes your flexibility, it changes your confidence, and it changes the choices available to you. But here is something important to understand. Reaching $10,000 does not happen overnight. For most people, it takes time, sometimes years, but that is completely normal. In fact, the slow process of building that first $10,000 is what teaches the most important financial lessons. People learn how to track spending. They learn how to reduce unnecessary costs. They learn how to prioritize long-term goals. These lessons are far more valuable than the money itself. Because once someone has developed these habits, repeating the process becomes easier. The next $10,000 often arrives faster than the first. And the $10,000 after that becomes even easier. Eventually, the numbers start growing much faster. This is when people realize something surprising. The biggest challenge in building wealth is not investing. The biggest challenge is getting started. Most people spend years waiting for the perfect moment. They think they need a higher salary. They think they need more knowledge. They think they need the perfect investment opportunity. But none of those things matter as much as the first step. Saving your first $10,000 forces you to begin. It forces you to take control of your financial life. And once that happens, everything begins to shift. Now, some people might be thinking something like this. What if I can't save $10,000? What if my income is too small? These concerns are completely understandable. But the truth is that the exact number is not the most important thing. The principle behind it is what matters. Even if someone begins with $1,000 or $2,000, the process is still the same. Build the habit, create the discipline, develop the mindset of investing instead of spending. Once those habits exist, increasing the amount becomes much easier over time. In fact, many wealthy investors started with very small amounts of money. What separated them from others was not their starting point, it was their consistency. They continued saving and investing even when progress felt slow. And slowly, over years, the results began to appear. This is why patience is one of the most underrated financial skills. In a world that rewards instant gratification, wealth requires the opposite approach: delayed rewards, long-term thinking, and steady progress. The $10,000 rule captures all of these ideas in a single milestone. It represents the moment when someone stops living purely in the present and begins building for the future. Once that shift occurs, everything changes. Spending becomes more intentional, saving becomes more automatic, investing becomes more interesting, and financial stress begins to decrease. The person who once struggled to save now begins to see new possibilities. This is why reaching your first $10,000 is so important. It is not just about the number, it is about the transformation that happens along the way. Because once you prove to yourself that you can build that first foundation, the rest of the journey becomes much clearer, and the path to financial independence becomes real. Not because of luck, not because of a secret strategy, but because of one simple habit. Consistently building your financial base, $1 at a time, until momentum takes over, and your money finally begins to work for you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more simple money lessons. And tell me in the comments, what is your first savings goal? $1,000? $10,000? Let's build it together.